Guys, will you shut up for a minute? We gotta get you the fuck out of Dodge, man. We're going to Vegas tonight.
What are you talking about, Vegas?
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Welcome back, subscribers, and hey, to those new people stopping by for the first time, welcome to you guys too. And to all those new subscribers that have subscribed recently, hey, you know what? Appreciate it. I figured I'd go ahead and start a new trip. It's been a while since I've done this, and I've been busy with work. We had an individual that was let go from the organization, so I've picked up a great deal of his workload. But with that in mind, I can still take some moments to go ahead and to do a quick little trip. And we'll start off just like the previous format and everything along the way. This will be the introduction. Again, there have been a great deal of newer people, and I figured I'd go through the process that is very simple once again, go through the reasons why I came up with this little easy strategy, and to share with you the reasons why I do it so I can get all of that out of the way so you guys get a better idea, especially to those new subscribers. I originally didn't have a plan to actually start a channel, but this is something I've been using for a while. In the very beginning, it's what I called my 4 and 2 method, which means in that situation I would do 4 rolls or 2 wins, whichever one came up first, and then I would wait for the 7 and then move on from there. My thought process behind this started out, oh my gosh, a long time ago, guys. I think it was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe, when I wasn't doing too well. I was playing some ways that I have since learned really don't work out, at least for me. And with that in mind, I remembered the words that I had received from a conversation I had with a pit boss. And he said, you know what? The average shooter only rolls 7 times before a 7 out. And I thought to myself, okay, that's cool. I'd stepped away from gambling for a while. I did play a little bit of roulette, but I just kind of stepped back because, you know, in all honesty and transparency, I lost a little bit of money, and it was at a time in my life when I kind of wasn't being as responsible as I should have. I'll just go ahead and say it like that. So I stepped away, and I thought, you know what? I want to go on this concept from what this pit boss had told me and just try to figure it out. Try to just at least work with that idea, leaving out all of the other things that I used to play. Now, understandably, everybody has their own certain way that they like to play. I'm in total support of anybody that wants to come up with a strategy. Everybody, including myself, we kind of tinker with different things to see if this will work, to see if that will work, to see if hedging this is going to work out. And all these little ideas that personally, with my thoughts, could be a distraction towards you actually winning the game. Now, distractions happen all over a casino. We have the bells and whistles that are all set up on purpose with a certain frequency to kind of play with the mind a little bit. It triggers endorphins within the brain, and with that in mind, people tend to stay hooked on, for example, slot machines. Now, real estate is another big thing that kicks in, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But still, when it comes down to distractions, we have cocktail waitresses that are coming up. We have certain situations that will cause you to, again, get distracted. Now me, excuse me, I'm a people watcher. Sometimes I get distracted with, certain ladies that want to walk by. But those are different ideas on how there are distractions. Now, within those distractions, I think there are certain parts of the game that are also a distraction. Let's talk about real estate for a minute. Now, real estate in a casino is mostly divided up with slot machines. You know, you can go through any casino, and the most real estate on the floor is taken up by what? The slot machines. Why? They bring in the most money, they have the least amount of house edge, and again, they're manipulated in such a way to play with your mind. For example, you put in $10 in the machine, $20, $50, whatever, and they're slowly grinding the money out of you. All right, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that, they'll slowly throw you a bone every once in a while, and they'll give you a little win, and people are sitting back and they're going, yeah, I won, let's keep doing this. Well, for most people, that's how they kind of lose their money. Now, when it comes to distractions in real estate, I also look at all the games. Every game has its own little distraction. Now, hang on a second. I have a bad habit. I smoke cigarettes. It happens. I can thank 8 years in the Marine Corps for me getting hooked on that, but I digress. Anyway, back to the real estate. Now, this to me is a pretty big section of the board. I don't play these. Why? Because, of course, the frequency of which they come in. If you're putting a $1 bet or $5 bet or a quarter on every one of these things, chances are pretty good this is going to slowly grind the money out of you. Let's also talk about the field bets. There's a good chance that it's going to take a large group of these numbers to come in a sequential order, or 3 or 4 times before you can recover your investment. If you're putting a nickel down there, slowly with over time, 4 or 5 rolls happen, none of these numbers hit, it's going to take that next unit win to recover back what you had before, and so on and so forth. The same way with the come section, in a sense, but not as much. Now, the don't come and the don't pass, it's nice about these bets because you can take these bets away. I understand that. But in playing it this way, let's look at the don't come. This is my thought behind it. If the don't pass, the don't come, if the 6 or an 8 is established on the come out roll, then this is at great risk. Why? There's a pretty good set of combinations of the 6 or the 8 that's going to be competing with your 7 as far as dice combinations go. The same way with the don't come. You know what? You slap some bets up there, and then if the point is a 6 or an 8, once again, the same combinations of these two were in competition of that 7 coming up. Therefore, it would be a loss. So that's kind of my thought behind the table in general. That's what I stepped away from because I had a difficult time, and I slowly understood that, to me, this is a good way to grind the money out of you. Just my thought. Now, again, if you look at my roulette, I play the smallest bet on the wheel, and I also play the smallest bet on the craps table, which is the place bets. Really simply, it goes like this. I go ahead and play the inside bets, and I work with those only. Why? I'm dealing with the numbers of combinations that have the most combinations that are going to compete with that 7. Yes, there are more combinations of the 7 coming up, but there are still 4 different numbers that are in competition with that 7 is my thought process on this. Now, I also set this up, most importantly, this whole strategy I set up for the bubble craps machine. Why? You can go ahead and get more rolls within a certain amount of time, therefore making more money. I also set this up, more importantly, for those individuals that have not played the bubble craps machine, would like a decent strategy on how to play it. And the reason why is because perhaps these individuals are a little apprehensive to step up to a felt table. I can understand that. When I first started to play, I was apprehensive, but I went ahead and overcame it. I really didn't know what I was doing in the very beginning, like a lot of individuals. Now, we talked about that 6 or 7, the average shooter. You have the option of doing this. Just as you have the option of removing your bets, you can also take down your bets or turn off your bets. Therefore, it puts you in control of the game. The reason why you can remove your money on the don't pass or the don't come is because the casino knows there are more combinations of the 7 coming in, so they allow that to happen. So, The process behind this is very simple. Again, this is set up for the bubble craps machine. A lot of people have a hard time perhaps figuring out the machine when they first get started. They don't know what they're doing. It takes a while to get a hold of it, and in that process they're losing, a little bit of money. So what I'm going to do here to start out is I'm going to use a low denomination of chips for this demonstration to give those individuals that don't have the experience on a bubble craps machine an opportunity to get all of those bets up on the machine console before the time is out. Now, generally, the time limit on these machines is roughly between 20 seconds and 30 seconds. So for the sake of these videos, I'm just going to go ahead and call it 30 seconds. So I also have a cutoff limit. And this is something I want everybody to take into consideration. Is with any good gambling strategy, it comes with a mindset. And this mindset is the discipline behind being happy with the money that you've won and shutting it down. Cashing out your ticket, either A, going to the machine to cash it out, to separate your winnings from your initial investment, or just calling it quits, if that makes any sense. Or, I'm sorry, what you could do is put in your next set of session money and then cash out. So therefore you're going to have 2 tickets to go ahead and cash out. That's where I was getting at. Now, a majority of places have their cash out machines within 20, 30 steps wherever I go, and it's no big deal to, cash them in. The other reason I want to have you strongly consider doing this is because there are patterns that happen within every game. There are patterns that happen in our life. We have our ups and downs. We have certain situations that happen, relationships come and go. So there are patterns of ups and downs. And the same thing applies for every game within a casino. You can think about the 21 table, for example, and you're going to see the dealer winning a lot, man. And then you've got a choppiness going back and forth, dealer, player, dealer. And then the player starts to win a great deal, and the dealer starts to lose. So the same thing happens with a craps table. You're going to have your long strings of these bets, depending on how a shooter is. If a person is an experienced dice setter and knows all these different dice from the V set or whatever, they're, of course, going to have an ability to go ahead and to produce those longer rolls on average. So you're going to have a choppy table, you're going to have long runs, and you're just going to have periods where you want to maintain and make sure that you're working on the side of the table. And I think what I'm saying that is cash out after a long run. Because the way my experience happens is generally right after a long run, you're going to have a short choppy thing. So by cashing out and either A, going to another casino, or patiently waiting and perhaps playing the don't side of the table after a long, long run. Of course, you don't know when these long runs are going to happen. You don't know. So the way I kind of figure out where the table is, for example, when I first walk up to a console or walk up to a bubble craps, I'm going to look at the numbers that have been coming up. If there are a great deal of 7s that have popped up, that's kind of telling me, maybe it's on the side of the 7s, if that makes any sense, or what we would call a cold table. And perhaps there's going to be a time soon when that table is going to shift. And in my experience sitting at a bubble craps machine, I normally see 4 or 5 7s that come very close together. You might have a 7 out, and then you have 3 rolls, and then a 7. So that's kind of what I kind of graph it at. I like going up to a console when I can see that there have been 5 to 10 numbers that have come in before that 7. So do we know when those are going to happen? No. But what's nice about this strategy, I'll show you, is how you can recover from just that. So I've been rambling on. I've given you a good kind of explanation of my introduction to this. you know how I came up with it. I didn't have any intentions of having this turn into a channel. You know, if you look back at my original videos that I posted, I just posted videos up, and this is from my own record. I didn't have any audio. I didn't have it. I'm just sitting down, playing, recording it, posting a video. And then I started to notice I was getting some subscribers, and I'm thinking, okay, why not just roll with it? So I came up with this idea of just doing these little trips. And what I mean by these trips is they're going to be broken down into 10-minute segments, hence the name of the channel, 10 minutes to Craps and Roulette Fortune, because 10 minutes on a simulator such as this is going to be about the same as 15 to 20 minutes of play, roughly. There are generally 30 rolls every 15 minutes. So that's generally what I come up with. And that's kind of what I go with. At this level of play, I'm going to actually be setting my stop loss goal of about $50 to $60. Instead of before I was cashing out at 25, I'm going to go ahead and cash out, and I'm going to do it for $50. All right. It's going to show my progression a little bit quicker. I'm going to only be putting out one video perhaps a week. So it'll help me achieve my goals and do everything as such. So I hope this explains the introduction to you. And with that in mind, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how this works so you can get a better idea before we move on to the other videos where you're going to see my actual play. So considering you're not familiar with the Bubble Craps machine at all, and you're going to try to get a hang of the machine with the least amount of money at risk, but you want to play this strategy. So with that in mind, I'm going to start off with the $1 chips. Okay, I'm going to first establish a point, and I'm just going to lay $1 chips on the inside numbers. Now, generally speaking, obviously, you have to go ahead and cap off these if it was in the right denominations of $5 chips. But I'm not going to be capping it off. And the reason why is, once again, some people might not have the speed in order to get all of their chips on the board. Therefore, you're perfectly okay with just setting this up as such. And by doing that, you can stick with the same chip. And I'll get to that in a minute. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to keep rolling it out. I'm going to establish that point again, and I'm just going to keep running it until I get a 7 out. Okay, there's a 7 out. Now, on this situation, what you want to make sure that you do is you want to ensure that the point is established directly on the next roll. And the reason why is I want to reduce the expectation of that 7 coming in by all means possible. And the only way you can do that is with one roll. One roll is going to keep that to the least amount of expectations of that 7 coming in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to see if that's going to happen. Okay, the point was established directly at the come out roll, and the point is a 5. Now, in this situation, remember, you had one chip on each one. It's really simple. Whatever denomination you choose, simply multiply it by 4, and that becomes your bet for each inside number. So having said that, I'm going to just go ahead and place 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to roll it for only one roll or one win. Actually, take it back. It's one roll only. If you happen to win at that, great. I'll show you what to do. If you don't win on that one roll, you're going to have to think like that professional poker player and be patient. You want to turn off your bets and you want to run it out to a 7. You just tell the dealer, turn them off. Wait till you're 7 and go through the same process of ensuring the point is established directly after the 7. Don't leave the bets on, because I have found that generally 7 come in groups, and they're generally going to come in the very beginning prior to a longer roll. So that's kind of my thought behind it. So bets are off, point is established, and then you again go for only one roll. If you hit it, this is what you do. You go ahead and you clear out your bets, and you regress down to your first level, And you know what? You just run it out until you get a 7. And you've got my white rhinos, a little stampede heading your way. Okay, again, I'll do this one more time because this video is getting a little bit longer. Of course, this is the introduction, giving you a general idea of how it works. So I'm going to roll it up again. Point is established. Again, I'm going to put 4 chips. And I'm going to hit it for 1. Boom. Clear it out. Now, when you're getting ready to cash out on your tickets, I want you to ensure that you cash it out directly after you have lost the 7 and you had to put up 4 units. Why? As let's say, for example, you regress at that point and the next number happens to be the 7. You now have lost 4 units, and although your next units that you're going to be putting up when you get that 1 win is going to recover it, generally speaking, I like to have a little bit more money in my thing. So if my goal is $45, $35, you lose that, doesn't matter what unit denomination, you now have to, in a sense, consider catching up. I don't like catching up, but that's just one thing. So again, cash out directly after the high one. Now, the way I'm going to be playing throughout this whole thing is using the $5 chips. Using the $1 chip is a good idea for you to get used to the machine, again, without much risk. You won't be making that much money, but again, it's going to give you plenty of time to get your money up on the board and play appropriately until you get in the habit and you can work that machine like you were the programmer of that machine, and it won't take that long. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to now make it $5 chips. And I'm going to, again, run it until I get a 7 out. And then again, making sure the point is established directly at the come out roll to, again, reduce your expectations of that 7 coming in on this roll by every means possible. And the only way you can do that is with 1 roll. With my $5 chips, I'm just going to go ahead and lay them out 4. You know, this way you're not fighting between these things, and it makes it easy for you. And in doing this, you are actually recovering from your previous loss. The way I was previously playing it before is I would, for example, put my $25 chips up. This, of course, is going to require a little bit more of a bankroll initially, but in doing that, you are recovering your previous amount plus winning 1 unit. But it's just putting a little bit too much money at risk. Roughly 225 or 250 versus 150, I think is what it comes out to. I can't remember. So it'll allow you to sit down and still, keep up with the situation. So again, I'm going to hit it only for 1 roll. Clear it out. It didn't happen. I have to wait for the 7. Remember, it's 7 to 7, not point to point. There's the 7. Again, establish that point on the come out roll. And I'm going to hit it for 1. Cool. Clear it out. And I'm going to cash out at that moment. So anyway, that's going to give you an idea of how I'm going to progress through this. And again, every day is going to be a different hour. Every little video you see is going to be an hour within a certain day. I'm going to try to aim for about 7 hours of play within that certain day. And I'm going to go for 3-day trips. So that'll give you an idea. And that's generally when I do go to a casino or someplace. I generally stay for, 3 days. I don't like staying any longer. It gets to be a grind. And I just, I work it like a job and I take off. In the evenings, I have my drinks. And in the meantime, I'm having my pineapple and orange juice drinks. Anyway, with that in mind, that'll give you a better idea. Once again, this is the introduction to this next trip. And with that in mind, thanks for subscribing again. If you've made it through and you've watched this whole video, thanks. You know, but aside from that, I want to go ahead and leave you with some Thai, and that is Choktikap, which means best of luck to you guys. You know what? Take it easy.